I've made some dumb impulse purchases in my life. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to the day I bought an abandoned storage unit at auction and found a sealed box inside with my full name written on it. Not my last name only. Not some random name that kind of looked like mine. My full name. First, middle, last. At first, I honestly thought it had to be some kind of joke. Maybe one of my friends had set me up. Maybe somebody at the auction was messing with me. Because what are the odds? I wasn't even supposed to be there that day. My friend bailed on me at the last second, and I almost turned around and went home. But I'd already driven 40 minutes, so I figured whatever. I'll stay, watch a few storage unit auctions, maybe see something weird, then leave. And at first, it was exactly what you'd expect. Broken furniture, old mattresses, dusty bins, holiday decorations. One unit had nothing but plastic hangers and a creepy porcelain doll with one eye missing. Then they opened Unit 32. From the outside, it didn't look like much. Rusted roll-up door, cheap padlock, late payments taped to the side. But when the auction manager lifted the door, I remember getting this weird feeling immediately. Not because it looked valuable, because it looked organized. Too organized. There was an old wooden desk, 3 identical metal shelves, a standing lamp, and about a dozen brown boxes stacked neatly against the back wall. No trash. No random junk. No sign somebody had just thrown their life in there in a hurry. It looked like someone had packed that unit carefully. Like they meant for something to be found later. Bidding started low. Couple guys dropped out fast. I don't even know why I did it, but I kept going. 200. 300. For 50. Then suddenly it was just me and one older guy in a baseball cap staring into the unit like he knew something I didn't. He stopped at 600. I won it for 650. And the second the manager handed me the paperwork, the guy in the cap looked at me and said, "If I were you, I wouldn't open the back boxes alone." Then he walked away. I laughed it off at the time. I really wish I hadn't. Because about an hour later, standing inside that storage unit with my phone flashlight in one hand and a box cutter in the other, I found the one box that changed everything. And written across the top in thick black marker were 3 words I still can't explain. I just froze. I must have stared at that box for a full 30 seconds without moving. Because when something impossible happens right in front of you, your brain doesn't immediately go to logic. It goes to denial. I checked the label again. Then I checked the unit number, like somehow I had wandered into the wrong one. Then I actually looked around to see if someone was filming me. Nothing. Just silence, dust, and that box with my name on it. It was medium-sized, taped shut, heavier than it looked. No shipping label. No return address. Just my name written in big block letters like whoever packed it wanted to make absolutely sure I'd see it. I should have left it alone. Instead, I carried it out to my car, set it on the trunk, and cut the tape. Inside were 3 things. The first was a photograph. An old Polaroid. In the photo, I'm maybe 8 or 9 years old, standing in my grandmother's backyard next to the rusted swing set she had behind the garage. I hadn't seen that picture in years. I didn't even know it still existed. The second thing was a toy car, a red metal Mustang with chipped paint on the hood. And I swear my stomach dropped the second I saw it. Because that was my favorite toy when I was a kid. I lost it when I was 10. Or at least, I thought I did. And the third thing in the box was an envelope. On the front it said, "If this box gets to you, then I was right." No name. No signature. Nothing else. At that point I wasn't scared yet. I was disturbed, but mostly confused. My first thought was family. Maybe something from my grandmother's house after she passed. Maybe a relative I didn't know had rented the unit. But that didn't make sense. My family doesn't use storage units in this city. And more importantly, nobody in my family would create some weird dramatic setup like that. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single handwritten note. It said, "Before you read any further, ask yourself one question. Why would someone save things from your childhood that were never supposed to leave your house?" That was the first moment I felt actual fear. Because the toy car, the Polaroid, those weren't just old memories. Those were things from a part of my childhood that almost nobody had access to. And suddenly, winning that storage unit didn't feel random anymore. It felt targeted. And when I looked back into the unit, past the shelves and boxes and the desk sitting against the far wall, I noticed something I somehow missed the first time. A manila folder, sitting right in the center of the desk, labeled with one word: begin. At this point, every normal person watching this is probably thinking the same thing. Why didn't you call the police? And honestly, I've asked myself that too. But here's the problem. What exactly was I supposed to say? Hi, yes. I bought a storage unit and found old childhood items and a spooky note. It sounded insane. So I did the dumb thing. I opened the folder. Inside were pages. A lot of them. Some typed. Some handwritten. Some were copies of receipts, old newspaper clippings, maps, and what looked like pages torn from a journal. But right on top was another note. This one said, "You don't know me, but I knew your mother." That sentence hit me hard. Because my mother died when I was young. And there are huge parts of her life that I still don't know anything about. The next few pages were mostly fragments. Dates, addresses, mentions of towns I recognized from where I grew up. There was one name circled multiple times, but I'd never heard it before. Then I found a typed page that looked like it had been written specifically for me. It said, "If you are reading this, then the unit was either abandoned as planned, or I ran out of time. Either way, it means you found the box before they did." I hate that word. It's such a cheap horror movie word, right? Mysterious. Dramatic. But in that moment, standing alone in a storage unit with the sun starting to go down outside, it didn't feel dramatic. Felt very, very intentional. The letter went on to say that years ago, someone had taken items from my childhood home. Not to steal them, to document them, to preserve evidence. Evidence of what? That answer came a page later, and I almost didn't believe it. According to the file, my mother had been trying to expose someone before she died. Not a conspiracy, not some secret society. A real person, a man who had inserted himself into families, charities, and local businesses for years. Always helpful, always trusted, and always disappearing before anyone could connect the damage left behind. The file claimed my mother had figured out who he really was. And the childhood items in that box, they weren't keepsakes. They were proof that he had been inside our home, long before anyone realized it. I remember putting the pages down and just staring into space. Because there's a huge difference between hearing a scary story and reading something that starts connecting to your actual life. Then I heard something behind me, just outside the unit. A footstep, then another. I turned around so fast I nearly dropped the folder. And for 1 second, I honestly thought someone had been standing there watching me. But when I stepped outside, the row was empty. No person, no car, nothing. Just one thing sitting on the concrete near the door. A key, with a faded tag attached to it. And on the tag, written in blue ink, were the words, "Desk, bottom drawer." Now my hands are shaking. Not movie scene shaking. Real shaking. That weird adrenaline where your body knows something is wrong before your brain catches up. I went back to the desk. There were 3 drawers on the right side, all locked. The key fit the bottom one. Inside was a cassette tape, a digital recorder, and one final envelope. The envelope said, "Listen first." I grabbed the recorder because I didn't even own anything that could play a cassette. There was already a file loaded on it. I hit play. First, all I heard was static. Then a woman's voice, quiet, nervous, controlled. And even though the audio was rough and broken in places, I knew that voice instantly. It was my mother. I don't even know how to describe what that did to me. When someone dies that early in your life, you start forgetting small things against your will. The exact sound of their laugh, the rhythm of their voice, the little pauses between words. And suddenly, in the middle of a storage unit auction I never meant to attend, I was hearing my mother speak directly into my hand. I had to sit down. On the recording, she kept saying if anything happened to her, someone needed to make sure he never got close to the boy. The boy, me. She mentioned the same name I saw in the file. She said she had hidden copies of everything. She said if the storage unit was ever opened by the wrong person, none of it would matter. Then near the end, her tone changed. She sounded scared, like she knew she didn't have much time. And the last clear sentence on the recording was this: "If you're hearing this, then he either failed to find you, or he already has." I stopped the recorder. Couldn't breathe right. Because fear is one thing, but fear mixed with grief? That hits different. For a second, I forgot about the file, the key, the notes, all of it. I was just a kid again. Hearing my mother's voice and realizing she had been trying to protect me from something I didn't even know existed. I opened the last envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper folded in half. It wasn't a letter. It was a name and an address. That's it. No explanation. Just a handwritten sentence at the bottom. If the house is empty, leave. If the lights are on, do not knock. That should have been enough to make me walk away. Any sane person would have taken the file straight to the police by then. But I'd already crossed that invisible line people always cross in stories like this. The line where you stop asking whether you should keep going, because now you need answers more than you need comfort. So I drove to the address. And what I found there made the entire storage unit feel like the beginning of something much worse. The address led to an old house about 20 minutes outside the city. Small, white siding, overgrown yard. One porch light hanging crooked by the front door. It looked abandoned. First, no cars in the driveway, no lights in the windows, mail stuffed into the box. I sat across the street for maybe 5 minutes trying to decide if I'd completely lost my mind. Then I noticed something. The front curtains moved. Just slightly, like someone had been standing there and stepped back. Every instinct in my body told me to leave. But I got out anyway. I walked up the driveway, every sound way too loud. Gravel under my shoes, wind through the trees, my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. The front door was unlocked. And I know how stupid that sounds. But by then nothing about this night felt normal anyway. Inside, the house smelled like dust and old paper. The furniture was still there. Family photos were gone. Drawers pulled open. Closet doors half shut. It looked less like someone moved out, and more like they left fast and expected to come back. Then I saw it. On the living room wall was a framed photo turned face down on the floor. I picked it up, and that's when everything clicked into place. The man in the photo was the guy from the auction. Baseball cap. Same face, same eyes. Only this picture was old. At least 15, maybe 20 years old. And standing next to him, smiling like they knew each other well, was my mother. I just stood there staring at it, trying to process what I was seeing. The guy who warned me not to open the back boxes alone already knew what was inside. He didn't randomly show up at that auction. He was waiting to see who bought the unit. Maybe waiting to see if it got to me. Maybe waiting to see if I'd lead him to the rest. That's when I heard a car pull into the driveway. I didn't look out the window. I didn't need to. I already knew. I grabbed the photo, the file, and the recorder and went out the back door so fast I nearly fell down the steps. I cut through the yard, jumped a fence, and didn't stop running until I hit the next street. I went straight to the police after that. And before anybody asks, yes, I turned over everything. The box, the file, the recording, the photo, all of it. They took it seriously enough to open an investigation. But here's the part that still messes with me. When they checked the auction records, the storage unit had been paid for barely and always at the last minute for years. Whoever rented it didn't forget it existed. They were keeping it alive. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for the right person. Me. And to this day, I still don't know which possibility is worse. That my mother really did leave all of that behind to protect me. Or that someone else knew exactly when I'd be ready to find it. So yeah, that's the story of how I bought an abandoned storage unit and found a box with my name on it. And if you think that was the end of it, it wasn't. Not even close.